Have you ever had trouble deciding between stacking 90% silver and pure silver, like 1 ounce silver rounds? Well, today we are going to compare the two, look at the pros and cons, and additionally, we are also going to look at the current pricing of 1 ounce silver rounds versus 90% silver in today's market. So let's get into it, but don't forget to subscribe and help us continue to grow. My channel is sponsored by SDBullion.com. New customers can get their first order of gold or silver at spot by going to SDBullion.com/new. So let's start off by looking at the pros and the cons of 1 ounce silver rounds. And as you guys probably know, the purity of 1 ounce silver rounds is huge. In other words, 1 ounce silver rounds are almost always going to be 3 nines. Every once in a while, they are 4 nines fine. In other words, 99.9% pure or 99.99% pure. That is definitely a big plus. Another pro of 1 ounce silver rounds is consistency. They are generally going to be around the same diameter and thickness, and of course the weight as well, which makes them very easy to stack. You can get full tubes of 21 ounce silver rounds and stick them in your safe. And like we already said, they are always going to be 99 or 999 fine silver. Another awesome benefit of 1 ounce silver rounds is that there are varying designs. Now, there are certain designs that are harder to find and bring a bigger premium, but even in general 1 ounce silver rounds, you have things like buffaloes, you have the Don't Tread on Me rounds, and so many more that I can't name, the Morgan silver dollar rounds, the Silver Eagle generic silver rounds, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of different designs in 1 ounce silver rounds, so if you're not a big fan of the buffalo, you can always choose something else. And additionally, 1 ounce silver rounds generally have a lower price than not just 90% silver, but in general, most other silver on the market outside of large bars. So that is some pros of 1 ounce silver rounds. Now, some of the negatives or the cons of 1 ounce silver rounds is that unlike 90% silver, unlike Silver Eagles and other sovereign silver, they are not legal tender. And so that is a negative to a lot of people, whereas like American Silver Eagles or 90%, like we're talking about in today's video, carry a legal tender face value. That being said, as I've always said, that face value is kind of irrelevant given that the silver value is so much higher. Additionally, they are not historical. So 90% silver coins like your dimes, your quarters, your half dollars, you can get Mercury dimes, you can get Barber dimes, you can get Walking Liberty half dollars, Barber half dollars, so on and so forth. Your quarters, you can have Standing Liberty, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of history in 90% silver that does not apply to 1 ounce silver rounds because they're generally made by private mints around the US, melted down from 9 silver, and they don't have any of that historical significance. And then the final con I'll share for 1 ounce silver rounds, and this is probably the most significant and most important, is that they are most often faked. If you're going to find fake silver, I'm not saying fake eagles exist, they certainly do, as do fake 90% half dollars, quarters, and dimes. But those are rare compared to how many fake 1 ounce silver rounds are created all the time. So if you know how to test your silver, this really isn't a big con. If you're always buying your silver from reputable sources, it's generally something you don't have to worry about. But if you're getting your silver from less than reputable places and you don't know how to test your silver, and I've shown on this channel many times how to do so, I'll put a link to one of those videos below. If you don't know how to test your silver, this could be a very huge con, and you should definitely be aware that these are more faked than basically anything else. So now that we've looked at 1 ounce silver rounds, let's take a look at 90% and see some of the pros and cons of 90% silver. And the first one starting off on the pro side is that 90% silver is legal tender. In other words, a half dollar is 50 cents, a quarter is 25 cents, a dime is 10 cents. You get the idea. Unlike 1 ounce silver rounds, this is a pro here where they are legal tender face value in the United States for 90%. Another pro for 90% that was on the con side of 1 ounce silver rounds is that these do have historical significance, and depending on the date and mint mark, some of them are worth way more than their silver value. Now, generally when you're buying 90% just for its silver value, you're not going to get coins that have better dates, but you'd never know. And additionally, just having that historical significance of having been a coin that was made to be used, and a lot of them had been used hundreds or thousands of times, that is definitely something that's really cool. Another thing about 90% is, at least in the US, it is heavily recognized. Most people know, especially people that are into silver, that if your dime, quarter, or half dollar is 1964 and older, that it is 90% silver. And then the other pro, which I find to be one of the biggest ones, is that it is fractional. In fact, although 90% silver generally carries a higher premium than your 1 ounce silver rounds, it is some of the lowest premium fractional silver that you can get. So if you're wanting to split your silver up into smaller increments than just 1 ounce, this is, in my opinion, the best way to do it. Now, the cons of 90% silver are these, and we'll start off with the first one, which was a pro for 1 ounce silver rounds, and that's purity. They are only 90% silver. They are not 999 or 9999 fine like the 1 ounce silver rounds. So if you're looking for something that's more pure, that's not mixed with copper like this stuff is, unfortunately 90% does not fit that bill. Additionally, and this also kind of goes in with the historical side of the pros, is that generally 90% has a little bit of wear. Although there is an exact math that you can do for 90% silver that comes right off of the line that's brand new. So for example, 0.7234 ounces per dollar. So every 10 dimes, 4 quarters, 2 halves, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, that cannot be said for the stuff that's been circulated. So that historical significance, unfortunately, also wears away some of that silver as the coin is circulated. Now, another con, and we just kind of hinted at this, is that it has very complex math. In other words, at 90% silver, there's 0.715 ounces per dollar for worn coins is what is used for the math. You have to figure that it takes $1.40 of face value 90% to get the 1 ounce, so on and so forth. The math is a lot more difficult to do than just looking at a 1 ounce round, looking at spot on the market, and knowing that the silver is worth exactly what it is trading for on the market right now. So that complex math can be something that is a huge con for many people. And additionally, we already hinted on this one as well, as a con for 90% is that it does have a higher premium in general than your 1 ounce silver rounds. So like I said earlier, it is cheaper for fractional, but it is still more expensive per ounce, generally more expensive per ounce than 1 ounce silver rounds when buying 90% silver. So now that we've looked at the pros and cons of both 1 ounce silver rounds and 90% silver, let's go ahead and take a look at some pricing data so you can decide which one is better for you. Now, looking at 1 ounce rounds, and I looked at 8 different online retailers, the lowest I could find of those retailers was $2.60 an ounce over spot. Now, the average of those 8 retailers came out to an average of $3.47 an ounce over spot, and the highest of all the retailers I looked at today was $4.99 an ounce over spot. That is a pretty significant difference from lowest to highest, as you can tell. Now, keep in mind, these are not including sale prices. And in fact, right now on my sponsor SD Bullion, you can actually get 1 ounce premium, in other words, sovereign silver coins for just $1.99 over spot. So you actually can find better deals than this. Today, I just want to look at what the market looks like on average, and putting the sale prices in there does not make sense. Now, looking at 90% silver, and this I checked 6 different online retailers because some of them don't show the prices the way I'm looking for. I was looking for $10 face value bags, in other words, $10 face. The lowest I found was $3.97 an ounce over spot. The average of the 6 that I looked at was $4.44 over spot, and the highest of the 6 that I looked at was $5.40 an ounce over spot. So the difference between 1 ounce rounds and 90% silver on average came out to 97 cents per ounce cheaper to get 1 ounce silver rounds than it would have been to get 90% silver at the same per ounce cost. So now that you see the numbers, you get to decide which one's better for you if you are stacking silver right now, or do you do like I do and just do a mix of everything and look for the best prices each time that you go out and buy. That is what I recommend, but I would love to hear your thoughts. So leave me a comment down below and let me know what you're doing. Additionally, if you haven't seen this video yet, this is the next video you should watch right now. It's a good one. And also do me a favor, like I said earlier, and don't forget to subscribe and help us continue to grow. I hope to see you in the next video, and you have a great rest of your day.